Strip away your gadgets. No GPS, no flashlight, no coffee maker humming in the morning. Could you make it? Most people today wouldn't last a week without electricity. But medieval folks, those masters of mud, fire and muscle, thrived in a world far harsher than anything we face now. They didn't have technology to fall back on. They were the technology. And the genius of their survival tools still humbles modern gear today. These weren't crude relics or museum pieces. They were purpose-built machines of endurance, crafted for centuries of use. And in a world obsessed with upgrades, these 8 medieval tools prove one thing. Sometimes perfection doesn't need an update. Forget those bulky battle axes Hollywood loves. The true legend of medieval survival was the bushcraft axe, a tool so balanced it could take down a tree, build a shelter and craft furniture all before sunset. One side of its head was razor-sharp for slicing through wood, the other a hammer built for pounding stakes or crushing bark. It was the Swiss army knife before the Swiss even thought of one. Medieval foresters, travellers and soldiers carried it everywhere. It was their lifeline. They didn't call it bushcraft, they just called it living. Even today, survivalists still swear by the same design, small enough to carry, strong enough to build a home from scratch. Try using a modern folding knife to split firewood in a storm. You'll see why the medieval axe is still king. Before power tools screamed through timber yards, the medieval craftsman ruled with silence and skill. His secret? The draw knife. Just a simple blade with handles on both ends, but what it could do was magic. With a steady pull, it could strip bark, shape beams, carve handles, and smooth out bows. It didn't just make woodwork faster, it made it personal. Every stroke followed the craftsman's rhythm, turning rough logs into works of precision. Medieval carpenters built villages, wagons, even castles with it. And today, traditional woodworkers still reach for a draw knife when they need control machines can't give. If you ever find yourself building off-grid, forget the noisy saws. Learn the draw knife. When night fell in the medieval world, darkness was total. Fire wasn't a luxury. It was survival. And the tool that made it happen again and again was the flint and steel kit. Just a shard of flint, a piece of carbon steel and a bit of char cloth. No chemicals, no batteries, just skill and spark. Strike the steel against the flint, and you've got fire in seconds. Even in rain it worked. Soldiers carried it. Travellers depended on it. Entire towns relied on this simple chemistry of iron and rock. Modern campers who've tried it know the satisfaction. Because once you've mastered fire the medieval way, you'll never look at a disposable lighter the same. Meet the medieval machete, the billhook. It looks simple, just a curved blade with a wooden handle, but don't let that fool you. This was the multi-tool of the countryside. Farmers used it to harvest crops and trim hedges. Soldiers used it to cut through forest paths and sharpen stakes for defence. The curve of the blade gave every swing a slicing advantage, less effort, more power and more control. You could chop, prune and gather without switching tools. Even today, bushcrafters and foragers rely on nearly identical designs. Because, well, when nature doesn't care about your ergonomic handle or titanium coating, the bill hook keeps cutting. Before mixers, grinders and blenders, there was the mortar and pestle. Every medieval home had one, carved from stone or wood, and it did everything. Grinding grains into flour, crushing herbs into medicine, turning nuts and seeds into survival food when times were lean. It was the chemistry lab of the medieval world, turning raw nature into sustenance and healing. Monks used it in apothecaries, housewives used it in kitchens, and when famine hit, it could turn inedible acorns into life-saving meal. Even now, herbalists and preppers keep one close. Because honestly, when the power grid goes silent, the mortar and pestle will still grind, quietly, endlessly, without fail. Water is life, and medieval people treated it that way. They carried it not in flimsy plastic, but in clay jugs, wooden barrels, and leather skins engineered with precision. Clay kept it cool even under the sun. Leather skins flexed on long journeys. Barrels sealed with pitch held entire reserves through seasons of trade. And here's the kicker. They were reusable, repairable, and biodegradable centuries before eco-friendly was a buzzword. A clay jug might last decades, outliving its maker. A leather flask could be patched with bark resin and last for years. Try that with your plastic water bottle. Before freezers or iceboxes, survival depended on one miracle: smoke. Medieval people perfected food preservation using simple wooden racks built over smouldering fires. Meat and fish hung for hours, slowly absorbing the smoke that kept bacteria away and flavour locked in. Smoked meat could last months without spoiling, a lifesaver through brutal winters or during travel. Entire villages survived thanks to these racks. Modern survivalists still build them for one reason. They work. No wires, no chemicals, just fire and patience. It's ancient science that outperforms the most advanced tech when it counts. Centuries before electricity, medieval people used the earth itself to preserve food. They dug storage pits into the ground, lined them with straw or wood, and buried root vegetables, salted meat, or grains. Underground, the temperature stayed cool in summer and frost-free in winter, nature's own refrigerator. These pits were simple, brilliant, and energy-free. Some kept food edible for half a year. Even during World War II, the same principle was used to store supplies when power was scarce. It's proof that survival innovation doesn't need wires. It just needs wisdom. If you ever go off-grid, dig a pit about 3 feet deep, line it with straw, and seal it with packed soil. Congratulations! You've built one of history's greatest refrigerators. When you look at these 8 medieval tools, the axe draw knife flint and steel bill hook mortar and pestle water vessels, smoke racks and storage pits, you start to see a pattern. They were all simple, durable, adaptable, built not to impress, but to endure. They didn't depend on batteries or software updates. They worked with nature, not against it. And when modern systems fail, when the lights go out and the noise stops, these tools will still do their job, just like they did 1,000 years ago. Because survival isn't about gear, it's about mastery. The medieval world understood that better than we do today. So next time you walk past an old axe in a shed or a stone mortar on your grandmother's shelf, stop. You're looking at the blueprint of resilience itself. If this journey through forgotten survival genius lit a spark in you, hit that subscribe button and share it with a fellow history lover. Because here at HistoryHQ, we're not just remembering the past, we're reviving it, one tool at a time.